Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing fine, you're doing good. So guys, this video would be our second video on the UiPath use case series. Okay, so guys, in our second video, we are going to automate the process of creating the claim report. Okay, so guys, I will give you a short idea like what exactly I'm going to do in this use case. Okay, so guys, let me explain you this process using the process flow diagram. Okay, so let me just open the process flow diagram. So give me a second. Till then I'll just open the process flow diagram. Okay. So let's start with the process flow diagram. So now I think you'd be able to see the flow chart, right? The flow diagram. So guys, this flow chart or the flow diagram would give you an idea about what are the different steps that we are going to follow. Okay. So guys, let's understand this process step by step. Okay, one by one. So guys, our first step is to check whether the Excel file is generated in the common folder or not. So you can see here, after the start, we are having the first step, which is the check the common path. So in the common path, we are going to basically check whether the dynamic folder is created with the current date or not. And if the folder is created dynamically by the system, then our next step would be to copy that file, that claim report, to our input folder. So now let me do one thing. Let me show you the common folder or the common path. Okay. So let me go here. Let me give me a second. Till then I'll just open this common path. I'll just minimize this. So okay. So now you can see here we are in the common path or the share path. Okay. So here you can see we are having a particular folder structure. Okay. So you can see here we have the year folder, and inside this you can see we have the month folder, and inside the month we are having the date folder. Okay, so you can see the date folder, 10th folder. Inside this date folder, current date folder, we are having the input file, which is the claim report. Okay, so our first task is to check whether the folder is created or not, current date folder is created or not. And if it is created, then we are going to copy this file from the common path to our input folder. So I'm just going to copy this file. I'm going to click on the copy, and then I'm going to go to the input folder. So this is my input folder, and here I'm going to paste it. Okay. So now I have pasted this input file, which is the claim report, in the insurance report in the input folder. Okay. So now come the most important step. Okay. So now we would be performing different set of operations on our Excel data. So basically we would be performing different operations like sorting. Okay, so we would be performing the sort operation on this input file. So let me just open this until, and then I will just show you, okay, what is the data in it. So now you can see the data, right? So you can see we are having the master sheet and the code sheet. Okay, in the master sheet we are having different columns like claim number, insurer name, gender, policy type, premium amount, operating expense, and the expense ratio. Okay, so now the first step we want to do is to sort this data based on the premium amount. So we want to sort the premium amount column data in the descending order. Okay, so you can see in the process flow diagram, after copying the input files to the input folder, the next step is to sort the premium amount in the descending order. So I want to sort this premium amount in the descending order. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click here. I'm going to use Control Shift L, and then I'm going to click on this plus icon. Okay. So after clicking on this plus icon, I'm going to go and search for here, sort largest to smallest. I'll just click here. So now you can see the premium amount column is sorted in the descending order. So you can see the maximum amount is placed in the top and the minimum amount is placed in the bottom. Okay. So in this way, we have sorted this premium amount column in the descending order. So this was our third step. Okay. So first step was to check whether the common file is present, folder is present in the common path. And then we are going to copy that file to the input folder. And then we are going to sort the premium amount in the descending order. Okay. So our next step is to calculate the expense ratio, right? We can see we are having the expense ratio. So guys, let's calculate the expense ratio now. Okay. So now you can see here, I'll just remove this expense ratio formula as of now. So now our next step is to calculate the expense ratio. Okay. So you can see in the process flow diagram, you can see we have to calculate the expense ratio once the premium amount sort is completed. Okay. So let me go to the input file. So here, in order to calculate the expense ratio, I need to know the operating expense, also the premium amount. Okay. So in order to calculate the expense ratio, I need to apply the formula. Okay. So now I'm in the cell G2. G2. Okay. You can see here in the cell G2. So I'm just going to apply the formula, which is equal to F2 divided by E2. Okay. So I'm going to calculate the expense ratio by dividing the operating expense divided by premium amount. So in this way, I'm going to calculate the expense ratio for this particular claim number. Okay. So in this way, so now I've just clicked on enter. So now you can see this particular number, the expense ratio is calculated. Okay. So I'll just drag and drop it down till here. So now we are able to calculate the expense ratio for all the claim numbers. Okay, so now comes the next step. Okay, so now we have calculated the expense ratio also, right? So now our next step is to plot the subcode and the status. Okay, so now let me show you the subcode and the status. Okay, so now in the codes sheet we are having the claim number, the subcode and the status. But what we want the subcode and the status column should be present here. Okay, and here. So one thing which you can see the common is the claim number. So claim number is common in the master sheet. Also in claim number is called this common in the code sheet, right? So what I want, based on the claim number, I want to plot the product code and the status here. Okay. So for that I have to insert the column. So if I go to the process flow diagram, you can see I need to insert the two columns at the end. So here I'm going to insert a new column for the sub product code. Okay. And I'm going to insert one more column for status. Okay, so now I've inserted both the columns. So now my goal or agenda is to plot the subcode for the particular claim number. So I'll just apply a formula or function, VLOOKUP function. So equal to VLOOKUP, and then I'm going to select the lookup value, which is the claim number, which is the P00001, and then I'm going to select the code sheet, and then I'm going to select the entire range, and then comma, and then I'm going to provide the index, column index. So for the column index for the subcode is 2, I'm going to provide 2, and then I'm going to select false. Okay, and then enter. So you can see for this particular claim number, the sub product code is plotted. So since you know that the sub product code or sub product code was present in this code sheet, but now it's present in the master sheet as well. So now let's plot this same for the status. Okay, so for status also I'll use the function which is VLOOKUP, and then tab. Now I'm going to use the lookup value, which is the claim number, this one, A2, and then I'm going to go to the code sheet and provide the entire range, and then again comma, and then I'm going to provide the column index, which is the 3. So this is the column index 1, this is column index 2, and this is the column index 3. So status is the column index 3. So I'll just put 3 and then comma, and then I'm going to select the false. So you can see it is denied. So similarly we want to plot the sub product code and the status for each and every claim number. Okay, so this is what we actually needed. So this process we are going to automate this using the UiPath. Okay, so this we have done in the normally, like manually we have completed the task. So now a last task remaining is only to copy this file into the output folder. Okay, so now let me just close this file as of now. Okay, I'll click on don't save. So guys, now it's time to code in UiPath. Okay, so let me just open the UiPath Studio. So let me just click here. So now the UiPath Studio is going to be open. So it will take some time to start the application. Let's wait. Okay, so now I'm just going to click on the process, and now I'm going to give the name of the project, which is the claim report. Now I will just keep the description as the same, and I'll select the language, which is the VB.NET, and I'll just click on create. Now it will take some time to load the dependencies and create the workspace. So let's wait for some seconds. It will take some time and then we can start with our automation. Okay. So guys, our first step was to check, right, whether the file is present in the common folder. So if I open the flowchart, you can see our first step was to check whether the file is present in the common path or not, right? This is a current day file is created inside the year, inside the month, and inside this we have the current day folder or not. So for that we need to write the logic. Okay, so let me just go to the UiPath Studio. So let me just click here on the open main workflow. So now in order to take the file from that dynamic folder, we need to actually create the dynamic path. Okay, so for that we need to actually use some variables, okay, where we can actually store the values of the year, month and the day, because these values are going to be changed, right? So for that I'm going to use an activity which is the multiple assign activity. Okay, so I'm just going to drag and drop this here. So now let let us create the variable. Okay, so initially if I just go here in the common path, you can see I need previous year and the current year, right, separated by hyphen. So let's create a variable for the previous year. Okay, so I'll just click on Control K and then I'll give the name of the variable str prev year. Okay, str is just the string type of variable and prev year means previous year. Okay, I'll just click enter and here I'm just going to open the advanced editor. Let me just open here and here I'm going to write the code. Okay, so I'm going to use the DateTime function. So DateTime dot now dot add year, and inside the bracket I'm going to write -1 because I want the previous year, right? And then dot to string, and in the bracket I'm going to provide the how many digits we want, right? We want the year in the 4-digit format, right? In the y. So I'm just going to provide that and then I'm going to click on OK. So now the previous year folder is created. Okay, so now we want the current year folder also, right? Current year also, right? So for that let me create another variable. So now I'm just going to use Control K and I'm going to write str current year, enter, and here I'm just going to open the advanced editor and here let me write the code for the current year. Okay, so I'm going to use DateTime dot now dot to string, inside the bracket I'm going to write yy. Okay, because we want only the 2-digit. You can see we need only 2-digit. I'll just click on OK and now we want this year folder where we need the previous year and the current year but separated by hyphen. So I'm going to create another variable which is going to be the combination of the previous year and the current year separated by hyphen. Okay, so I'll just going to create a new variable. Control K str what should I give the name? Okay, year folder, enter, and then here let me open the advanced editor and here I'm going to combine and append the both the variable. Okay, str previous year plus double quotes separated by hyphen then plus str current year. Now I'll just click on OK. So now the previous year and current year folder is created. So now we want to go inside this. So now we want the folder for current month and the current year. So let's go back to UiPath. I'll just going to create a one variable for the month. So I'll just click Control K and now I'll give the name of the variable str current month, enter, and let me open the advanced editor. Now I'm going to write the datetime function for the month. Okay, so date time dot now dot toString, and then I'm going to, inside the bracket, I'm going to provide the format for the month. Okay, so we want the month in 3-digit format, right? So I'll just provide that. I'll click on OK. So now the current month variable is created. So now we want the current year also, right? So but we have created the variable for the current year, so there is no need to create the variable again. So we will just create one variable for the month folder. Okay, so I'll just click Control K, str month folder, and here I'm just going to append the current month and the current year. Okay, so str what is current month separated by hyphen plus str current year, because we have it in 2-digit format, current year. So now we have created the variable for the current year and current month. So now we need to create a variable for the current date, right? So if I go here, if I go inside this variable folder, so now we want the file from the current date. So current date is 10, right? So I want this date in this format, 10/7/2023. So I'll just go to UiPath Studio, and now I'm going to create one variable for the current date. Okay, so Control K, str cu current date, enter. And now let me open the advanced editor. Just click here, and now I'm going to create a variable, use the code datetime function for the current date. Datetime dot now dot toString, and in the bracket I'm going to provide the format td dash mm dash yyyy. Okay, so we want the current date folder in this format. So now we have created the folders, right? So now it's time to create a new variable. Okay, so where we are going to create the variable for the dynamic path. Okay, so I'm just going to create a variable for dynamic path. Control K, str dynamic path. Okay, so I've just created the dynamic path. I'll just click on the plus, and I'll just click on the advanced editor. So now I'm going to create the dynamic path. Okay, so in order to create the dynamic path, there is some part which is static. Okay, so if I go here, till here the path is static. This path is not going to change. Only the year can change, month can change, and the date can change, but this is not going to change. So I'm just going to copy this, Control C. I'm going back to UiPath Studio, and now I'm going to paste it here, but initially I'll just put double quotes. Now I'll just put a slash here. Now let's use the variables which we have created. Okay, so I'll just append this. So initially we have the year folder, right? So I'll use str year folder is there, str year folder. Okay, and then I'm going, we have, after year folder we need the month folder, right? So I'm just going to use str month folder is there. Okay, and then again after month we want the current date folder, right? So I'll just click on plus, and then str current date, and then in double quotes we need the file, right, inside the current date folder. So inside double quotes I'll put slash. So now the dynamic path is ready. Okay, I'll just click on OK. So now we have created the variables for the year, month, date, and current, and also for the dynamic path, current date and dynamic path. So now let's do one thing. Let's try to check whether this path it's able to create the dynamic path or not. So I'll just use an log activity, okay, to check whether the path is created properly or not. log message. Okay, so I'll just go here. I'll just drag and drop it below this assign activity, and then I'm just going to select the log level as info, and here I'm going to pass the dynamic variable str dynamic path. Okay, so now let's do one thing. Let's save this and let's try to run this. Okay, I'll just click on debug. So now it is execution. The bot has started the execution. Now if I go to the output panel and see, you can see it has generated the path. So you can see the current year, previous year, current month, and the current date folder is generated. Okay, so now our dynamic path is correct. Okay, so now let's move on with the next step. Okay, so our next step is to check like this path is present or not, right? So for that we have to use one activity called as the path exist activity. Okay, so let me just search for path exist activity. So here you can see the path exist activity, right? So I'll just drag and drop this here, but let me just minimize this first. So I'll just go here and just drag and drop this activity here. Okay, so this path exist activity is mainly used to check whether the particular folder or file is present in the particular folder or not. Okay, so and if the file or the folder is present at a particular location, then it is going to return a boolean value. Okay, like true. And if the file is or the folder is not present, then the file exist will return the boolean value as false. Okay, so let me just do one thing. Let me select the type as the folder. So we want to check whether the dynamic folder with the current date is created or not. And here I'm going to pass the path, which is the str dynamic path. Okay, so let me just put enter. So now the path exist is done. And if you want, we can also check whether the path exist is returning any value or not. So if I just go here and just use the right line activity. Okay, so let me just drag and drop this activity below the path exist, and we will see the output. But let me just go here and let me set the output of the path exist activity. So here in the output I'm going to create a variable is exist. Okay, so this variable will store the boolean value true or false. Okay, based on the condition, like if the path or the folder exists or not. Okay, so I'll just use the variable here is exist. Now let's try to run this. Okay, it's showing some error. Let me see what is the error. Boolean to string cannot convert. Okay, so we need to convert this to string. Okay, in order to print. So let me just minimize this. So I'm going to use is exist dot to string. Okay, so now let's save and run this again. So now the bot has started the execution and execution is completed. So now you can see the dynamic path is generated and it has also returned the boolean value as true because it has found this path with the current date. Okay, so now let's move on with our next step. Okay, so now we know like the path is present or not. So for that we need to check, right? If the path is present, then only we need to perform the other set of activities like to copy the file from the share path or the common path to the input folder. And if the particular folder with the current date is not created, then we don't need to copy the file to the input folder. Okay, so for that we need to use the conditional statements. Okay, so I'm just going to drag and drop this if activity. So in the if activity you can see that we have the condition, then we have the then block and the else block. Okay, so here I'm just going to provide the condition as is exists. So I'm going to provide the boolean variable. So I know like this variable contains true or false, right? So if the true condition is satisfied, then the then block would be executed. So in the then block, I'm going to use the activity which is the copy file activity. Okay, so I want to copy the file from the a common path, right? So I want to copy the file from the common path, and then I'm going to paste that file into the input folder. So let me just go to the common path. So let me show you. So this is the file, this is the folder. Inside this we have the month folder, and inside this we have the current date folder. So I want to copy this file from this folder, which is the 10th July 2023. So let me go back to UiPath Studio. So now I'm going to use activity which is the copy files activity. Okay, so just search for copy file. I'm just going to drag and drop it here. So here I need to provide the source and the destination. Okay, so here from where we need to copy the file, we need to copy the file from the dynamic path, right? So from the dynamic path we need to copy the file. So I'm just going to provide str dynamic path, and from this path I need to get the file, right? So I need to get the file name. So what is the file name? So file name is claim report. So I'll just add the file name as claim report inside the double quotes report dot xlsx, and in the destination where I need to store, I need to store that in the input folder, right? So I think here it's stored previously. I'll just delete it as of now. So I want to store the file in this folder. So I'll just copy this, and then I'll just go here and paste it. Okay, and then so now the bot is going to copy the file from the dynamic part to this input folder. I think, okay, I've not enclosed that in the double quotes, that's why it's giving error. Okay, so I'll just keep it in the double quotes. Okay, so now the error has been removed. So now we have copied the file. Okay, so now let me just manually copy the file from this common path to the input folder. Okay, I'll just paste it here. Okay, okay, so now what is going to be our next step? Okay, so let me just open this file and let me show you what would be our next step. Okay, let me open this file. Okay, so this is our claim report. Okay, in this we have the different columns such as claim number, insurer name, gender, policy type, premium amount, operating expense, and the expense ratio. Okay, so these are the data, and we have the two sheets, which is the master and the course sheet. Okay, so let me go to the process flow diagram and show you like what is going to be our next process. So we have done this part, which is the we have checked whether the file is present in the common path or not. We have copied the file to the input folder. So now our next step is going to be to sort the premium amount in the descending order. Okay, so now in the claim report you can see we are having the premium amount, right? So I want to sort this column in the descending order. So I want like the maximum amount should be placed in the topmost row and the minimum amount should be present in the bottom. Okay, so for that I need to sort the data, right? So I'm just going to use Control Shift L, and then I'm going to click on this plus icon, and here I'm going to select largest to smallest. Okay, so now you can see the largest value, which is the maximum amount, is present in the topmost row, and the minimum value is present in the last row, right? So this was the step that we need to perform. Okay, so now this we have also done. Now what is our next step? Our next step is to calculate the expense ratio, right? So let me go to my input file. Okay, so now I need to calculate the expense ratio. So how can we calculate the expense ratio? So in order to calculate the expense ratio, we need to have the operating expense and also the premium amount. So in order to calculate the expense ratio, we have the formula, simple formula. Okay, so don't worry, just formula is equal to F2 divided by E2. Okay, so this is just simple formula. So you can see the expense ratio is calculated. So I want to calculate the expense ratio for each and every claim number. Okay, so I'll just do one thing. I'll just autofill. I'll just click here and double click here. So now you can see the expense ratio is calculated for each and every claim number. So now this was our first, second, third step. Okay, so now, no, I think this was our fourth step, right? So we have sorted, and this was our fourth step to calculate the expense ratio. So now our fifth step, or the next step, is to insert two columns. Okay, so we want to insert two columns. Why we want to insert two columns? Okay, and what are the two columns that we wanted to insert? I'll tell you. Okay, so the column which I wanted to insert is the subproduct code and the status. Okay, so I want the subcode and the status should be present here in the H column and the I column, because I want the data, every data, everything in the same sheet. Okay, I don't want the data should be present in different sheets. So what I'm going to do, I want to plot the subcode based on the claim number. Okay, so you can see that the claim number is common in both the sheets. You can see claim number is present here and claim number is present here also, right? So for the particular claim number, I want to get the product code and the status plotted to be here. Okay, so for that I need to create a new column. So I'm just going to create the column which is sub product code. Okay, and then I'm going to create a column which is status. Okay, and now I need to plot the sub product code. Okay, so the product code is present here. I want to plot it here. So for that I need to use a function which is the VLOOKUP function. Okay, I'm just going to use VLOOKUP, and then I'm going to provide the lookup value which is the A2. Okay, I'll just put comma, and then I'm going to go select the codes sheet. I'm going to select the entire range, and then comma, and then I'm going to provide the column index. So the column index for the subcode is 2, right? So the column index claim number for the claim number is 1, and for the subcode is 2. I'll just put 2 and then comma, and then I'll just select false. Okay, so now you can see for the particular claim number P009, we have got the subproduct code. So you can see, for if I go here and P009 NF13, you can see NF13. So now in the similar way, we want to plot the subproduct code for each and every claim number, and we also want to plot the status also. So let me plot the status and show you. Okay, I'll just go here and use the function VLOOKUP, and then I'm going to select the lookup value, then comma, then I'm going to select the sheet which is the code sheet. I'm going to select the entire range, and now again comma, and now the column index is 3, right, for the status. So 1 2 3, I'm just going to put 3 and then comma, and then I'm going to select the false. So now you can see the status is also plotted here. So we want to plot the status and the subproduct code for each and every claim number. So this is what we want to automate. So these are the steps. Now I have done it manually, right? So now these are steps I'm going to perform. I'm going to automate the process, and I'm going to create a bot that is going to perform all these activities for me. Okay, so guys, let me just close this window. Okay, close this file. I'll just click on don't save, and let's move on with our UiPath. Okay, so now I have just copied the file. Okay, so now our next step is to read the file, right? So in order to read the file, we are going to use the Excel activities. Okay, so guys, in this video I'm going to use the modern design activities. Okay, so we are having two types of activities. One is the classic and the modern design. So we are going to use the modern design activities, which are the Excel modern design activities. Okay, I'm just going to use the Excel process scope. Okay, so I'm just going to drag and drop this below the copy file activity. Okay, so now inside this Excel process scope, okay, I'm going to use the use Excel file. Okay, this activity I need to use inside this Excel process scope, and now I need to provide the workbook path. Okay, so I know that the input file is the claim report is present inside the input folder, right? So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to press Control Shift right click, copy as path, go back to UiPath Studio. I'm going to paste it here. So now let me show you the path. You can see my input. Inside the input folder I'm having the claim report. Okay, so now I'm just going to keep the uh, settings as the same, and I don't have any templates. I'm not going to enable this. And now let's add the other activities. Okay, so inside whatever activities which I'm going to use inside this Excel process scope. Okay, so if I go here and if I search for the Excel activities, okay, so there are multiple Excel activities you can see here. So now our first step is to read the data, right? So in order to read the data, we have to use the Excel read range. Okay, so let me search for read range. Okay, so you can see here we have the read range. I'm just going to drag and drop it here. So guys, so you can see the read range. We have the different parameters. Okay, so we have to actually provide the range. Okay, like where the data is present. So I'm just going to click on this plus icon, and then I'm going to go to Excel, and I can just click on custom. Okay, and then I'm going to select the sheet. I want to read the data inside the master sheet. Okay, I'll just click on save. Okay, now so now we have provided the range. Okay, so now where we need to store. Okay, so we have to store in some variable, right? So we have read the data. So whatever data we read in the Excel, the UiPath stores that data in the form of data tables. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable, data table variable, dt master. Okay, okay, so we have created a variable dt master. So inside this data table master we have all the data which is related to the master sheet. Okay, so now we have read the data. Let me minimize this. So now what is going to be our next step? We have read the data. So if I go back to the process flow, you can see I need to sort the amount, right, in the descending order. So for that I need to use one other activity. Okay, so we have an activity to sort the data. Okay, so for that I'm going to use the sort range activity. Let me search. Okay, so you can see we are having the sort range activity. I'm just going to drag and drop this here, and now I need to provide the range. Okay, so I'll just click on this plus icon, and then I'm going to click on Excel custom input. I can select the sheet, and then I'm going to provide the sheet name, which is the master sheet. Okay, and then I'm just going to click on OK. I'll just click on save, and then I'm just going to click on this add sort column. So I want to sort the column in the ascending or descending. I want to sort the column in descending order, right? I'm just going to select descending, and then I'm going to provide the column, like which column I want to sort. Okay, so I'm just going to click on want to sort the premium amount column, right? So in the range I'm going to select the premium amount. So now I've selected this. Let me minimize this. So I have also sorted. Now I need to calculate the expense ratio, right? So I need to write the formula in the particular cell. In if I open this input file, we open this. Okay, it's okay. Okay. So I want to. Okay, what's happening? Okay, so I want to. Let me close this. Why it's pop-up is showing. Okay, so I want to write the formula here, right? And based on the expense ratio, I want to calculate the expense ratio for each and every claim number. So for that, I need to use another activity. Okay, I'll just go here and I will just search for the activity which is the right cell activity. Okay, so I'm just going to search, go to activities panel and search for right cell activity. So I'm just going to drag and drop this here below the sort range, and here what to write. Okay, so here we need to provide the formula. Okay, so I'm just going to provide the formula equal to f2 divided by e2, right? If I just go back to the file, f2 divided by e2. Yes, let me provide where So where we need to provide the, so we need to provide the range also, right? I'm just going to go here. I'm going to provide the custom input. I'm going to provide the worksheet name, which is the master, and the cell address. Okay, the cell address would be, so for that I need to go here. Let me just go back to the cell address. So the cell address would be G2. So let me provide the cell address as G2. Let me click on save, save. And here I'm just going to enable this auto increment row. Okay, so I want that the formula should be written for each and every row. For each and every claim number, we want the expense ratio. So we want to append this formula down. So for that, I'm just going to enable this auto increment row. Okay. So now we have written the formula. So now our next step is to create a column, right? Let me just go here. Okay, so we need to insert two columns. So for that, we need to use an activity insert column. Let me just drag and drop it here. So here I need to provide the range. So I'll just go to Excel. I select the master sheet. So I want to insert the column, right? But where I want to insert? I want to insert the column after the expense ratio, right? Here I want to insert. So after G1, after expense ratio. Okay. I'll just put after the relative column. I'll just put the range. After expense ratio, I want to add a new column. And let me give the header. So the header was okay, I have not given the header. Let me just manually put the header. So I want to create the column with the name sub product 4. I'll just click on OK. If you want, you can just set the format like date, number, string, percentage, time. As of now, I'll just put it as general. I'll click on OK. Now I have inserted the column. Okay. So now, as you can see, we are having some color associated with each and every header, right? So let's put some color for the subproduct code also, right? So if there is a column with the name subproduct code, there should also be some color, right? So we'll just add some color. So for that, I'm going to use set range color. Okay, set color. Why I'm not able to see? Let me. Okay, set range color. So now I'm going to provide the color. Okay, so for that, I'm going to use system dot drawing dot color dot. So here you can see there are different colors. Okay, so we can select any one color. We'll just select the Alice blue, and now I need to provide the range. Okay, so I want to change the color for h1 column, right? I'll just select the range as h1, and the sheet name is master. So by default the sheet would be the sheet 1, but we have changed it, right? So we have two sheets. So I'll just add the sheet name as master. So now we have created the column for the subproduct code. So now let's create a column for status. We want to create two columns, right? So let me do one thing. Instead of creating using the insert column activity again, I'll just copy and paste this activity below, and then I will just modify this. Control C, Control V. Okay, so now I'll just change this. So this part would be the same, the range would be same, only this part would be changed. So after subproduct code, right? After subproduct code, we want to add a new column. So here, if I just, I think here it has not taken the column name. Let's do one thing. Let's add the name here. So product code. Okay. Maybe now it can take. Okay. Now it has taken the name related to column subproduct code, and here I'm going to add the name of the column, which is status, and just click on OK. The format, I'm going to keep it as general. If you want, you can change it to text as well. Let's keep it to general. And okay, how many insert column? Okay, now I'll just copy this set range color, and let's change the color for the status column as well. Okay, so here I1, I'll just change the range to I1, and the sheet name would be master. Now we have calculated the expense ratio, also we have inserted the columns. So now we need to perform the VLOOKUP, right? So in order to perform VLOOKUP, we need to use the for each Excel row. So I'm just going to drag and drop this here, and in the range I'm going to provide the sheet, which is the master. Okay, and it has the hash header, and now I'm going to use the VLOOKUP function. Okay, VLOOKUP activity. So I'm just going to drag and drop this VLOOKUP here. So here initially we have to provide the value, okay, to lookup. So based on the claim number, we want to plot the subproduct code and the status, right? So I'll just go here in the current row. I'm going to select the claim number, okay, and in the range. So where we want to search, so based on the claim number, we want to go to code sheet, and then we have to search, right, for the subproduct code based on the claim number. So in the range, we are going to select the sheet, which is the code sheet. I think, okay, I'll just go in, and now I'm going to provide the column index. Okay, so the column index for the status for the subcode is 2, right? I'll just put the column index as 2, and then I'll just, so where we want to save, so after performing the VLOOKUP, we want to save the data in the master sheet in the H column, right? Here we want to store. So I'll just go here in the current row, I'll just select subproduct code. So we have done the lookup for the subproduct code. So now let's do the same for the status as well. I'll just drag and drop the VLOOKUP activity. I'll just drag and drop this here, and I'm going to provide the value for the lookup, which is the claim number, and the range I'm going to select the code sheet, and the column index would be 3 because the status is present in the column index 3, first, second, third. This is the third index, and now I'm going to save that data into the status column here inside the master sheet. I want to store it here. So now we have done with the VLOOKUP. So our final step is to save this file in the output folder. So I'll just use save Excel file as, so I'll just use this, and then I'm going to provide the path. Okay, so I want to store this file in the output folder here. So I'll just copy this, Control C, I'll just go here, I'll paste it here, and here I'm going to provide the name of the output as final claim output dot xlsx. Okay, I'll just add this inside double quotes. Now I'll just click on OK and save. So now our entire automation is completed. So let me just do one thing. Let me close this file. Let me click on don't save. Let me check whether the file is present in input folder or not. I'll just delete from here. Now let's try to run this automation. Okay, so now we have completed the automation. Now let's try to run this. Okay, I'll just close other Excel activities or other Excel files as well. Now let's click on save, and let's click on debug. Okay, why it has given the error? Because it's false. Okay, so now the date has changed. So now I was creating the video on the 10th July, but now it's 11th July, so it has changed. So now let me just do one thing. Let me change the folder. I'll just do one thing. I'll just copy and paste this folder below, and I'm going to change the date from 10 to 11. So now, okay, now let's try to run this process again. I'm just going to save and click on debug. So now the bot has started the execution. Let me do one thing. Let me minimize this. Let me maximize this. So now you can see the bot has started the execution and it is performing the task. So now you can see it is plotting the expense ratio and also the subproduct code and the status as well. So now the execution is completed. Now let's go back to the output folder and check whether it has created the proper output or not. Let's click on Excel. Okay, there is some issue in the expense ratio. Okay, fine, but it has plotted the subproduct code and the status. Okay, so now let's do one thing. Since it has not created the expense ratio, I'll check that what is the issue, and I'll just try to fix it in my next video. Okay, so I'll try to use the another activity, which is the autofill. Using that, we can actually fill the values which is present in the first cell to all the other rows. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, and let's meet in some other use case. So bye guys.